Welcome back. In this video we are going to be talking about working with color in Illustrator. There's a lot we can do with color in Illustrator, and we've been keeping it pretty simple up till this point, so we're going to expand that information now. First of all, let's talk about color models. The two color models that you'll find yourself working with most often are going to be CMYK and RGB. So the difference between these two models, here I've got kind of a demonstration of CMYK. CMYK stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. These four colors are mixed together in different amounts in order to create every color that's available in the CMYK model. Now CMYK is used for print, so anytime you are creating a document in Illustrator that is going to be printed, if you're doing what's called a process print, which is where they mix the colors together, which is what you'll be doing most often, then it's going to be the CMYK color model that you're using. The other color model that we have is RGB. RGB stands for red, green, and blue, and RGB is used anytime that you are going to be creating these colors using light. So for example, on a website or a computer application or a smartphone application, slides, anything where the actual image is going to be created using light rather than using ink like printing. Now, Illustrator is smart enough to know that and set these things up for you primarily. So if I come here and say I'm going to make a new document, and I say that I'm going to do a print profile, you'll see that it automatically set my color mode to CMYK. If I go ahead and click OK, then it's CMYK, and if I come to my color panel over here, then I've got CMYK sliders, which we're going to talk about in a minute. If I come back and I'd set my document up as a web, then it's automatically going to do that as RGB. It says RGB right up there at the top. Come over to my color panel, and I have RG and B sliders. Okay, so it does set that up for you. Now, if I find later that I need to change that, let's say that I were to come here and I were to set this up as a print document. You can also set the color mode right down here under advanced. This is probably going to be closed in yours, so you'll want to come click that little triangle, open it, and if you want to change it there. But let's say that I just choose this as print, and I come in and then I decide, oh shoot, I actually need to do this as RGB, but I've got the size and everything just the way that I want it. I can change that by going to File, Color, or Document Color Mode, and there's my two options. Now it's very important that you have the right one done, because CMYK and RGB don't always completely overlap. There are certain colors that aren't available in CMYK that are available in RGB, and vice versa. So if you set up your document as an RGB document and then you print it, it's not going to look the way you want it to. And if you set your document up as a CMYK document and you put it on the web, it's also not going to look the way you want it to. So it's important to make sure that you're using the right color mode for the output. Now, if I come up here to my color panel again, the menu of the color panel allows me to choose what color model it's looking at that time. So here is CMYK, there's RGB. I also have under there grayscale, which is just going to be grays and blacks, and I have under there HSB, which stands for hue, saturation, brightness, and we're going to learn about that in a minute as well, and web-safe RGB, which is a special subset of RGB colors that are specifically safe for all web browsers. So let's go back to CMYK here, and let's take a look at how we're going to use this color panel here. First of all, remember that we need to be choosing whether we're adjusting our fill or our stroke when we're working with the color panel. So if I come here and I draw a rectangle, right now I can see that I'm working with the fill. I've got this spectrum down here, and I could just come click on any color and you'll see that it's going to change that to that color, and I've changed my fill to that color. Let's go ahead and give this a little more of a stroke so we can see the stroke. If I come and click on this little stroke symbol there, it switches that, puts the stroke in front of the fill, and now I'm working with my stroke. And I can come and click on a color and it'll change my stroke. There is a keyboard shortcut for switching those, and it's the letter X. If I click X, you'll see it switches, so now the fill's in front, now the stroke's in front. Every time I tap X, it's going to switch that. I also see what I'm affecting over here in the toolbar. It's a little bit larger, so there's my fill and the stroke is on top, so that's what I'm affecting right now. Tap X and you'll see that those switch. So back to the sliders here. I've got a slider for cyan, a slider for magenta, a slider for yellow, and a slider for black. If I bring all these down to 0, all the way to the left, you'll see that I have no color at all. It's just white. In CMYK, everything at 0 is white. Everything at 100% is black. Or you can just do the black to 100% if you want black as well. Now, you'll notice there's numbers here to the side. They run from 0% to 100%. And as I slide this up, you can see right now it shows me if I were to slide a little to the right, then this would get bluer, this would get pinker, this would get yellower and blacker. But let's say that I slide my cyan up about halfway. You'll notice now the colors on the sliders have changed too. They always show you, based upon the current settings, what moving one of the sliders would do. So I know if I were to move my yellow up, I'd get green here. If I start sliding that up, now I know that if I were to move my magenta up, it'd start getting brown, or if I moved my cyan down, it would turn yellow. So you see how the sliders allow me to visually see what this is what it's going to do. Now I can kind of use this spectrum down here as a shortcut to get me to the general area I want to go to, so I can come and click on green knowing I want green, and then I can use the sliders to fine-tune that. Also, I can type in the numbers here. Quite often you'll be given number codes to an exact color. Let's say, for example, you're doing a project for Coca-Cola. Well, Coca-Cola is not just going to tell you and make our logo red. They're going to say our logo is specifically this red, and they will give you a code. Maybe the code for this color is 7701000. I could type that in anytime in any computer and get that exact green. Okay, now let's go. Well, first of all, there are shortcuts here also for no fill, for straight black, and for straight white. So now let's go ahead and take a look. I'm going to switch this over to RGB. Whoops. If, by the way, you ever come in here and it is compressed like that, you just need to click these two little arrows to the left of where it says color, and it expands, and that goes for all of the panels. If you're ever not seeing all the options, it may just be compressed. Those two little arrows will bring it out. So let's go ahead and go to RGB. Now in RGB, it's the opposite as it is in CMYK. White is all of the colors all the way to the right, all the way full. And black is all the way colored, well, pure black would be all the colors all the way to the left. These ones don't, RGB doesn't look at it in percentages. It looks at it more of a color code. So it runs from 0 to 255. So if you're given a code with RGB, let's say that we needed this exact orange, that would be 218.103.0. So sliders and everything else work exactly the same in RGB as they do in CMYK. You're just dealing with a different color model. One last color model here to look at, HSB. HSB stands for hue, saturation, brightness. The hue is the base color. So we've got a color wheel up here, and it runs all the way from 0 to 360 degrees because it's a full wheel and has all the different colors, all the main colors in the spectrum. So if I go to this blue, then from there I decide how saturated I want that blue. Saturation is how pure that color is, and to desaturate it is to add white to it. So the lower I go in here, the more white I've added, till eventually it's pure white. Okay, and then down here it's how bright, which would just be adding black to it. So with a combination of those two, I can get any color in the spectrum looking at HSB, hue, saturation, brightness.